want to try to make things that I'm doing transparent to you, because you might not realize that I'm doing them, and there are things that you should do in your own classes. So first, so this is our pause. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pause for a little pedagogical break. So the first thing I had you do was introduce yourselves. And the reason, the first thing I did was ask you to turn on your video cameras. Now I didn't demand it, right? I asked nicely if you wouldn't mind turning on your video cameras so I could see your faces and we could form a sense of community, and so that I wouldn't be so lonely. That's something that you should do as well. You will feel a lot better if you can see your students. And you don't have to demand it. You can just ask nicely too and explain why you want to see them. It also allows me to do things like, did you see how I had said raise your hand if you want to go next, or give me a thumbs up if you are done writing what you need to in the chat. I can actually monitor all of the videos at once. And so I can just use simple hand gestures, and I can still see facial expressions for people. So some of that body language that you get in the classroom, you may have to be a little bit more explicit about asking for it, like thumbs up if you're done, or, go like this if you think you have a question, right? Or something like that. So we can get some of that out of the video interaction. I had you introduce yourselves because it means you remember the process of unmuting to talk and muting to when you're done, right? And so for many students who've not used everybody has kind of used these platforms now. But again, it never hurts to have them practice at the beginning of a class, the beginning of a semester, unmuting to talk and then muting back again, right? So we got through that. We got through practicing that. We learned a little bit about each other. I learned how to pronounce some names, and I'm actually keeping a spreadsheet of names that I would not have gotten right on the first try, or didn't get right on the first try, like Dominica's name. So I keep a pronunciation of names in a spreadsheet to help myself to learn names. It's a little harder to learn names in a virtual environment, so I'm doing things to try to help myself as I go. The other thing, a few other things in the chat window, when I switch to a new question, you'll see me put a string of dashed, I'm just putting a string of dashes in the window on both sides of the word, the topic I'm changing to. And that's so that as I scroll up and down in the chat window, and you can try it out by scrolling up and down in the chat window, you can very, very quickly pick out where you changed topics or changed questions, right? Otherwise, it all runs together. So if you're having students respond in a chat window, you want to make sure you do something between the questions, or you will very quickly lose track of which answers went with which questions and get a little lost yourself. We did a technique called 3, 2, 1, go, where you write the response, but don't press enter until everybody is ready, right? And the reason that helps is because you get a wider variety of answers, because nobody's being unduly influenced by anybody else. And you don't get the Me Too phenomenon that you get in the classroom a lot of the time. So if you kind of reflect on what happens in a classroom, if I was to say, somebody share what they think about digital homework, one of you would raise your hand or start talking, and then a lot of people would be like, yeah, I agree. And you might not have initially agreed with it. You might have had other things to say, but not willing to jump in on that conversation. So by having everybody respond at once, we get a little bit more variety to the wording of things, the concepts, the ideas, and it loses its, if you are asked to go to the board by yourself and do something, that seems kind of scary, but if you do it in a group of people, it seems to lower the anxiety about answering, right? Everybody's answering together. And so I call that 3, 2, 1, go, because we just wait and everybody presses enter at the same time. So that's when we did. And then finally, when we did our breakout session, it's very important when you do breakout groups that you do it in the format of something like a think, pair, share. So if you're familiar with that, educational pedagogy, you first give the students an opportunity to think about it themselves. So I had you make ProCon lists yourselves. And then I put you into the groups, made sure you knew what you were going to do in the group, right? When you arrived at your group, hopefully the experience that you had was everybody was ready to talk. They had made a list and they were ready to talk when they arrived, right? It's very important that you do the think part first, because if you send them to groups first and then tell them to brainstorm a list, almost always, or to solve a problem, which is another thing we do in groups a lot in STEM fields, they won't talk to each other because they'll all be busy working it out by themselves. And nobody will want to break the ice to talk, so nobody will talk to each other. So it is vitally important that you give them time to try the problem, answer the question, jot down their notes ahead of the breakout room, and then send them to the breakout room when it looks, and you can get like thumbs up, like who thinks they're done with this? Do you need, you know, like you can get that from the videos, and then send them to the breakout rooms. That way you do almost instantly have a discussion when you get there. Right? So that's a think, pair, share. Then we come back and share our ideas together, right? So think first, pair them together to share. If you're gonna do quick sharings, I never like to do more than 3 in the rooms, because I think that's a pretty, it's a small enough that everybody gets a chance to talk. Nobody really can manipulate or monopolize the conversation too badly in a 3-person group. And the bigger the group, the more you tend to have like certain people monopolizing the whole conversation. So it's a good size. And then we come back and share, right? So just like, again, putting some transparency to some of the techniques you'll see me use throughout the day. Any questions on any of those before we go back to our next slide here?